بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عن جابر بن عبد الله الأنصاري عن فاطمة الزهراء عليها السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله قال: سمعت فاطمة أنها قالت: دخل علي أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام فقال: السلام عليك يا فاطمة. فقلت: عليك السلام. قال: إني أجد في بدني ضعفا. فقلت له: أعيذك بالله يا أبتاه من الضعف. قال: يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به. فأتيت بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به وصرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتدالى كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أمه. فقلت: عليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال: يا أمه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت: نعم إن جدك تحت الكساء. فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جداه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوضي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معه تحت الكساء. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أمه. فقلت: عليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال لي: يا أمه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت: نعم إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جدة. السلام عليك يا من اختاره الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافع أمتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال: السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت: عليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال: يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن عم رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت: نعم ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال له: عليك السلام يا أخي ويا وصي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء. ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت: السلام عليك يا أبتاه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال: وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بضعتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء. فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ أبي رسول الله بطرفي الكساء وأومأ بيدي اليمنى إلى السماء وقال: اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وحامتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي، يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم. أنا حرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم وعدو لمن عاداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم، إنهم مني وأنا منهم. فاجعل صلاتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم وأذبح عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فقال الله عز وجل: يا ملائكتي ويا سكان سماواتي، إني ما خلقت السماء مبنية ولا أرضا مضحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مذيعة ولا فلك يدور ولا بحر يجري ولا فلك يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبرائيل: يا ربي ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل: هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فقال جبرائيل: يا رب، أتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض ليكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله: نعم قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يقرأك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك: وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مضحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيعة ولا فلك يدور ولا بحر يجري ولا فلك يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم، وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم، فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله عليه السلام: يا أمين وحي الله، إنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء فقال لأبي: إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول: إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فقال علي لأبي: يا رسول الله، أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله: يا علي، والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض، وفيه جمع من شيعتنا محبينا، إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي عليه السلام: إذا والله فزنا فاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال بي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله: يا علي، والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض، وفيه جمع من شيعتنا محبينا، وفيهم مهموم إلا وفرج الله همه، ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غمه، ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي عليه السلام: إذا والله فزنا وسعدنا، وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
In the name of Allah, the most beneficent and the most merciful, I seek refuge in him from the accursed Satan, the one who deviates and the one who misguides. Salutations upon the Holy Prophet of Islam, Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, and his holy progeny, peace be upon them all. Salutations upon him who lies in Medina, the one who brought the faith to mankind so that we may be guided. Salutations upon him and his noble progeny. Salutations upon the third holy Imam from the family of Fatima, Aba Abdullah al-Hussein ibn Ali, the one who went to the battlefield of Karbala with his 72 faithful followers so that the truth may be upheld. Salutations upon him until the days turn into night, and salutations upon the holy earth upon which they reside, and it is khak shafa for every moment and for every illness in this world. Salutations upon the last holy Hujjat, Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman, alayhi salam, arwahun al-fida, the one who will fill this earth with justice and equality, just as it is filled with injustice and inequality. Salutations upon him, for he will be the avenger of the blood of Karbala and for the silent graves of Jannatul Baqi. Salutations upon Janab Imran, Hazrat Abu Talib, alayhi salawatullah wa salamu alayhi, who was the faithful and the loyal protector of Rasulullah. Amma ba'd, فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في قرآن الحكيم وكتاب المبين وفرقانه المجيد وقوله الحق وهو أصدق الصادقين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لا يجد قوما يؤمنون بالله ويوم الآخرة يوادون من حاد الله ورسوله ولو كانوا آباؤهم أو أبناؤهم أو إخوانهم أو عشيرتهم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Sisters in Iman and Islam, Salamun Alaikum wa Rahmatullahi wa Barakatuh. Condolences to the Imam of the age on the passing of this noble and most revered personality of Islam, Hazrat Imran, Janab Abu Talib. Beginning this lecture today, I am going to speak on the fazail, the status of Hazrat Abu Talib in the books of Ahl Sunnah. Needless to say, that time and again we have to prove and we have to show the iman or the faith of Hazrat Abu Talib. And let us see today how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveres him in the Quran and shows us a chapter called Ali Imran. The ayat that I recited for you today is from Surah Mubarakah Mujadila. The ayat it talks about those people, and the tarjumah is as follows: you will not find true believers, the ones who believe in and have iman, and they believe in the day of judgment, yani tawheed and akhirat. And he says, you will not find true believers who believe in tawheed and akhirat. They will ever befriend, or they will ever be friends with the ones who oppose Allah, the Prophet, and they will never have any relationship with them. Who? Those people who disobey Allah and disobey the Rasul. They go against Allah and they go against Rasul. So these people who have iman on Tawheed and on the day of judgment will never befriend people that oppose Rasulullah, people that oppose Allah. Now, even if those people who are the opposers of Allah and Rasulullah happen to be there, Allah says, number one, abahum, their fathers, even if they were their own fathers, or their sons, abnahum, or ikhwanahum, even if they were their brothers, or their ashiratakum, relatives. Yani, here Allah is showing us the characteristic of a true believer who has faith in Tawheed and in the day of judgment will never be friends with those who oppose Allah or those who oppose Rasulullah. Then even if they are from his own kin and his own lineage, no matter, he will never be friends with them. Surah Mujadila, ayat number 22. And then we see that who is the misdaq of this ayat. And we find that there is Abu Talib, who is the greatest protector of the Prophet Muhammad. And while protecting Muhammad and while protecting the iman and the day of judgment and the belief, he took on his relatives. He took on those people who denied prophethood, and he was always at war with them, becoming the misdaq of the ayat of Surah Mujadila. And it is said that when they could not, the question about the iman of Abu Talib rose at that time when the people were upset with the fazilat granted to Hazrat Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salawatullah wa salam alayhi. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum wa la'na aduwwahum. So history clarifies this, that no matter when they could not degrade Ali ibn Abi Talib, then they started to point fingers at Abu Talib alayhi salam. It is said, let us degrade the father of Ali. And then we find some status of Abu Talib alayhi salam in the words of the Aimma. I will just introduce very briefly what Imam Sadiq alayhi salam had to say about Hazrat Abu Talib, what Imam Sajjad had to say about Hazrat Abu Talib, and then we go further to what the books of Ahl Tasannum talk about Hazrat Abu Talib. In Usul-e-Kafi, we find a tradition that Imam Sadiq says that when Abu Talib alayhi salam attained Shahada, martyrdom, because of the aziyat of the Shobe Abu Talib. The aziyat, indeed, it has to be termed as a killing, because they were deprived of food, they were deprived of, they were kept away from people. It affected their mental health, it affected the reasoning. Every other torture that they could think of was put upon the Prophet and his family in Shobi Abu Talib. It was torture upon torture was heaped on them. And this is one of the reasons why Hazrat Abu Talib attained Shahada. It is said that when Abu Talib alayhi salam passed, Jibreel alayhi salam came to the Prophet and said, "O Muhammad, go outside of Mecca, because you have no Nasir, you do not have any helper after the death of your uncle." And at that time, the Quraysh came for the Prophet, and he went to a mountain called Hajun. This is from Usul Kafi. Imam Sadiq narrates that the Prophet was so alone after the Shahadat of Abu Talib. Again, Imam Sadiq says that once the Prophet was in the Holy Kaaba and he was wearing a clean libas, a new libas, some mushrik came and put camel dung on the Prophet's clothes. So when he came out of the Kaaba, Hazrat Abu Talib saw him in this demeanor, and he said to him, "Oh uncle, what is my status in your eyes?" And he said, "Oh son of my brother, my love for you knows no bounds. Tell me, who did this to you?" So Abu Talib, then Rasulullah tells him that there were some mushrikeen and they threw camel dung on me. And Abu Talib called Hamza, the lion of God. He took his sword and told Hamza, "Take this dirt, and when these people go to those Quraysh while they are in the Kaaba." And when these Quraysh saw the graze on the face of Abu Talib and Hamza, he said that as soon as they saw, they were repentant, but Abu Talib says, smear their faces. And once that was done, to each one of them, he embraced Rasulullah and said, "This is your status with me, that if anyone raises his eyes towards you, O Muhammad, I cannot forget what my father told me while he was going away from this dunya to protect you. And that is my aim." And when Ayyuma alayhi salam were asked about his faith, he said, "Do you know that we found," he said, Abu Talib says, "we found Muhammad like Moses." And he said that how can my grandfather Abu Talib be kafir? Because he says that the one who is my son is he, Imam says, who does not pay attention to batil or falsehood, and who protects the orphans, who defends the honor of widows. And he said, how can he not be how can he not be Muslim when he was a believer? And he said that don't you realize that this hostility is towards Amir al-Mu'mineen, so that they invent lies and misinformation, so that the Muslims try to think that, oh, the prophets, the one who was taking care of the prophet and Ali come from a lineage which is impure, la'anatullah alayh. And it is said, since they could not find any fault with Amir al-Mu'mineen, and first we must understand the mindset and the circumstances at why they spoke this way. Why was this ilzam? Why was this put upon Abu Talib alayhi salam? It is said that those traditions which talk about Hazrat Abu Talib being kafir, we have to know that there is no ijma consensus in the books of Ahl Sunnah about Abu Talib's faith. Because when we talk about the people who did not have faith, for example, the Quran talks of Abu Lahab. For example, we look at the Tariq of Abu Sufyan. When we look at these two names, we find it in Ijma. Everyone is in consensus, in agreement that yes, these two did not have Iman. in that premise, on that premise, we do not find an ijma or any consensus regarding Hazrat Abu Talib. If we could find of these two, and if really and if in actuality this allegation was the truth, Khakambadahan, then even Abu Talib's name should have been in that consensus. So let us see Abu Talib, Apostle, and Abu Sufyan and Abu Lahab. It is said that when the famous scholars of Ahl Tasannum say that Abu Talib was, whose faith was in the service of Islam, whose faith was mukammil, and he was an example for the Muslims of all times. And then the studies say that when did these kind of narrations or allegations come about? So the timing is very, very important. And bedar ho jaiye, understand who and how and when did this kind of this kind of an accusation come about. So let me take you to Sham. For those of us who are crying for Sham, हम और आप तड़प रहे हैं कि हम जाएं शाम, लेकिन वो शाम कि जिस शाम में हजरत मुआविया, हजरत अबू तालिब was opposed to Hazrat to Muawiyah. And what happens is that at the time of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Hazrat Abu Talib alayhi salam, and Amir al-Mu'mineen, there was the dushman, the enemy was Muawiyah. And it is said that it was in the time of Muawiyah's reign, La'natullah alayh, when he usurped the caliphate for himself and to cement his own position and to malign the Ahlul Bayt, he started paying people to fabricate these traditions. And this is how we find that thousands of traditions were coming out of the factory of the Mal'un Muawiyah, where he even went on to say that when on the 19th of Ramadan, when Imam Ali was Shaheed in the Mihrab of Masjid Kufa, the people in Muawiyah's Sultanate were so used to hearing wrong things about Imam Ali and that he was not even Muslim. They said to the people, Ali and Masjid, what was Ali doing in the Masjid? And this is how we find that when propaganda and when false propaganda has the government support and the media is with the government, have we not seen in the whole world what is happening today when the media is bought over by the government? This is exactly what happened in Muawiyah's time for the Zat of Hazrat Abu Talib. It is said that when he started praising the caliphs and the companions, and even Abu Sufyan was praised. And here we find them talking detrimental things about Abu Talib alayhi salam. Continuing Muawiyah's tradition was the Banu Abbas. So now we understand that this did not start in the time of Rasulullah or Amir al-Mu'mineen. It started in the time of Muawiyah. And the Banu Abbas promoted these same traditions to vilify the Ahlul Bayt because it was in their best interest to show that Ahlul Bayt are normal, they are mortals, and they can also have khakambadahan, they can also do wrong things. And therefore, they had no special claim to the Caliph. But when we see that there was no excuse and the excellence of the Ahlul Bayt was always coming across. It is said that there are verses in the Quran, but there is no verse to say that a person can become, we cannot have verses in the Quran. We have verses in the Quran that talk about people who were disbelievers. And it is said Abu Talib alayhi salam was an extraordinary mu'min, and as such the books of Ahl Tasannum. Now I will introduce you to one hadith which is called Hadith Noor. And this hadith was narrated by the Prophet, and it is self-explanatory, and it shows the status of Hazrat Abu Talib. And now from now onwards in this lecture are the books of Ahl Tasannum, the books of Ahl Sunnah. So Hadith Noor not only shows us and establishes Hazrat Abu Talib's Iman, but those who object have no Iman of their own. Extensively, documented by the scholars of both sects. And it is said that when the Prophet says to, he narrates, there's an underlying meaning in this entire hadith, and therefore I want to read it to you very quickly. And Rasulullah says, we were all in the form of nur or light. When Allah wanted to give us a shape and a body, He placed us as a nur in the loins of Adam, Hazrat Adam. Then He transferred us from loins to wombs, yani from arham and mutahhar, and from sulb to sulb we were transferred, our light was transferred. So every prophet that was from the loins of Adam, from the loins of Hazrat Adam, had the nur of Rasulullah. And what does he say? He kept us purified from filth, from najasat, from polytheism, from shirk, from adultery, which was widespread in the land and in the period of disbelief. And in every era, some people gained felicity and they became noble in status because they believed in us. They believed in us. And certain people, they were damned to the hellfire because they rejected us. And when he brought us in the loins of Abdul Muttalib, he divided it into two. The nur was split. You know, it is always said, Ana min Aliyun min Nurin Wahid. Me and Ali are from one nur. And here is the meaning. And he said, when he brought us in the loins of Abdul Muttalib, he divided it into two parts. One half was placed in the loins of Abdullah, and the other was in the loin of Abu Talib. Thereafter, Rasulullah says, my nur was transferred to my mother Amina, and the other half of the nur was transferred to Ali's mother Fatima bint Asad. So we both were born from these noble ladies whom Ziyarat-e-Waritha says that, oh, you are the one who is a successor. You are from the Arham-e-Mutahhar, and you are from the pure wombs. And aslab al-shamikha wa arhamil mutahhara. And this is exactly what Hadith Nur says. And then he said, likewise, the light was reverted to me. When after Abdul Muttalib, it came to Abdullah, then the nur came to Muhammad himself. And when it came to me, the nur was transferred to my daughter Fatima. And he said that the light was reverted to Ali, from whom came Hassan and Hussein. Likewise, he says, the light which was within me found its way to all the imams from the lineage of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, and the imams from the progeny of Hussein until Yawm Qiyamah. Now this is Hadith Nur. It proves now, as a student, as a Talib Ilm, every hadith which we study has to have an analysis, has to have a way in which we can understand it. On the apparent, this is talking about some light which was from Allah, and it was, it went from loin unto loin until it was received by Muhammad Mustafa, and then it went to Ali Murtada. Among the scholars of Ahl Tasannum, who talks about this? So Musnad Abi Hanbal. It is said, Musnad Abi Hanbal talks about him in the loins of Abu Talib. Mir Sayyid Hamadani in Mawad al-Qurba, and in Manaqib Ibn Shafi. When we talk about these three scholars, these are the heavy books of Ahl Sunnah. And from this, I take my analysis, because allow me to say this in Urdu, Tarif to wo jo dushman kare. When people talk about Abu Talib and his Iman, when on one hand we see accusations and allegations upon his Iman, and on this other hand we see the same people who have accused him of having no Iman, are in their own books you find the Iman of Abu Talib through Hadith Noor. Let me analyze for you. Adna talib ilm hu, aapki khidmat mein kuch rakhna chahti hu. So we derive few points, 4 points from this tradition of Noor. Not just Abu Talib, every ancestor of Amir al-Mu'mineen and Rasulullah, right from Adam, were perfect, were believers, were Muslim. Kufr and shirk and disbelief and apostasy could never mingle with faith. Yani two contradictions cannot be together. And individuals like Abu Talib, point number 2. So they're perfect believers. Every ancestor, not just Muhammad and Ali, right from Adam, every ancestor is pure, is tahir, is tayyab, and is full of belief and is a perfect example. The next one, the second point, talks about this. What do we analyze and get from it? Individuals like Abu Talib were a creed. They were a faith amongst the people of disbelief, where there were hundreds of idols. Here we find Abu Talib coming to us with a monotheist religion, that is the religion of Allah. Number 3, for those who believed, Rasulullah says, those who believed in us and our ancestors gained khushi, they gained felicity, they gained sawab. And the ones who rejected us were the damned to the hellfire. They were unsuccessful. Yani muhabbat of Abu Talib alayhi salam and his ancestors and his predecessors and the ones who came after him. If we have love for them, that is success for us. It is falah for us. It is farah for us. And if we do not believe, then for those ones who were damned and they were the unsuccessful, for them, Allah says, wailul lil munafiqeen. Allah talks about every type of person that rejected the faith of Abu Talib. And number 4, what do we gain from this? It is not possible to believe in Amir al-Mu'mineen as the Khalifa 4, if at all you do believe that. If at all, if you have to believe the Khilafat has to be pure, and that is the premise why Khilafat could not be the way it has been presented today. There is no Khilafat, there has to be Imamat. Because Imamat, Allah has taken the zimmedari, Allah has taken the responsibility for presenting to us guides who are Tahir and Tayyab, who are away from all risks, who are the ones Mukammil. It is said, it is not possible to believe in Islam and the monotheism of Amir al-Mu'mineen without attesting the same for his father. You cannot say that we believe in Imam Ali alayhi salam, and we do not believe every ancestor of Amir al-Mu'mineen is Mu'min Kamil. And you cannot say that I believe in Abu Talib, I believe in Amir al-Mu'mineen, but I cannot believe in his father. Iman and Islam of Ali is not possible if we do not have Iman and Islam of Abu Talib. Because if the tree is corrupt, how can you have fruit that is fresh? How can you have fruit that is pure? So here we find it is said that because those who acknowledge Ali but claim that his father was not Muslim are only showing their prejudice and their hostility towards Amir al-Mu'mineen. How can the fruit be pure when the tree is corrupt? And then some ignorant Muslims say, and coming to another hadith, a forged tradition, which is, they say that, oh, Abu Talib, curse of Allah upon the people who say this. Abu Talib alayhi salam, they say, is in the hellfire. Is in the hellfire. He said, Allah has punished him. And then the reply is that, the reply, I would like to talk about this in this manner, that there are some people who say no, that it is not so. But the, the accusation that he is in the hellfire, it is said, the Prophet and Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, he said that while the they had to do this. Why did they do this? Because they could take away the khilafat, they could snatch the khilafat, sit on the mimbar of the Rasul, but they could not get the merits what were needed for that mimbar. So if I can't be like them, then I just degrade them and bring them down to my status. This was the aim. And what happens? So let us see. It is said that, once Muslim and Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, Sahih Bukhari, on the authority of a narrator called Abdullah bin Haris, says that through two narrators, one is Sufyan al-Thawri. I will come back to these names, and the names have been pronounced because I have to tell you a bit about their history. So Sufyan al-Thawri and Abdul Malik ibn Umair, they were the Ravis of this tradition. Abdullah comes to the Messenger of Allah and he says that, the Messenger of Allah, Abu Talib, took upon himself your protection. He fought wars for you. He went against the people. He went against his own Kabila. Yani, sometimes when the Quraysh and the Banu Hashim would have issues regarding Muhammad, Abu Talib was like a sword, like a protector, like a shield. So, Ya Rasulallah, because he did all of this and he fought the infidels of Quraysh because of you, what are you going to do for him? So now this fabricated tradition, it is said that Rasulullah said that Abu Talib, Khaqam Badahan, is in hellfire. And if it was not for me, he would never come out of it. And I have done his shafa'at. I found him drowned. I took him out. And now he is still in the fire. But on the day of judgment, I am going to give my intercession. Can you believe this, sister? How many lies would be told to defame and to, in the hatred of Amir al-Mu'mineen, यानी अली की दुश्मनी से कोई इतनी हद तक गिर जाए कि वो इस कदर के narrations बयान करे. This kind of narrations. And now, so we go back to the true narrators, Sufyan al-Thawri and Abdullah and Abdullah bin Malik ibn Umair. It is said that Allama Amini, the Sahib Ghadir, in Al-Ghadir says that Sufyan Thawri, Allama writes that this cannot be a Sahih hadith. It cannot be, this is fabricated, 101% fabricated, because Allama Amini talks about these two and says Sufyan Thawri is considered unreliable because his hostility to the Ahl Bayt was known. It was known time and again. And then he says that we cannot expect anything good about Ahlul Bayt from him. So we reject this tradition that the Prophet could have ever uttered such words which are so demeaning about Abu Talib. And the next is Abdul Malik ibn Umair. He said he lost his memory. And when he lost his memory, there were so many traditions which the Ahl Sunnat have said that these could never be the same words from the Prophet. And then it is said that on reviewing this text of this hadith, we find so many inconsistencies. They do not match. The words do not match. For example, the tradition says that I am interceding. The Prophet said, I intercede for Abu Talib. You can only intercede for a moment. So all those people who feel that on the day of judgment they will get the shafa'at of Sirf Rasulullah on the bunyad that they have just said Muhammad Rasulullah will not get any intercession, because it is just not about Islam, it's about Iman. And it is just not about being Muslim, it's about being Mu'min. And we only become Mu'min when we say Ashhadu anna Amir al-Mu'mineen wa Imam al-Muttaqeen Aliyun Waliyullah Salawatullah Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad wa Ajil Farajahum. And then it is said that if the Prophet intercedes for Abu Talib, then he is Muslim. And if he does not, if intercession is only accepted for Muslims, and then it is said that if Abu Talib was not Muslim, and if Prophet interceded, then the Prophet did something wrong, and that is not possible as well. So the words are contradictory of this tradition that Abu Talib alayhi salam is in the hellfire. And in many reports, it is said that the Prophet said that his intercession for Abu Talib was subject to the Prophet, to Abu Talib reciting the kalama. Now, once again, this cannot be, because you recite the kalama if you are not a believer. If you are already a believer, you do not need to testify. Have you in all of your studies and all of your listening to various majalises and dars, mujhe chhode, main to adna talib ilm, aapne kabhi suna that there is a question mark upon the faith of Fatima bint Asad, that she had to recite the Shahadatain, she had to recite the Kalama? No, we do not find a question for any of the other noble women or men of the family of Ali Imran except Abu Talib. So obviously there was some kind of conspiracy going against him. And it is said that if Abu Talib had to express Tawheed, and then it is said, Quran talks about three groups. Now, I'm just going to give you the three names of the three ayats. Inshallah, it's homework for you. You know, we're just right now, we're in the gray zone. So maybe we have some more time on hand. And, you know, I know that we're all going to move out and stuff, but you can just look at these ayats so that you know. And this is your hadiyah for Abu Talib alayhi salam. It is said that many of the disbelievers will never receive the slightest intercession. The slightest intercession. Now, let me quote to you. Surah Nahl, verse 85. Surah Baqarah, verse 162. Surah Mudassir, verse 48. It is said that these three Quranic ayats talk about intercession and how it will not reach the disbelievers. Number two, if those people that consider Abu Talib as a disbeliever, they are in a fix. If he was a disbeliever, there can be no intercession for him. So what did the Prophet say? And what did Sufyan al-Thawri narrate? That he got intercession. So did the Prophet overstep the Quran? Never. The Prophet doesn't speak if it is not wama yanteko anil hawa. Then how can he act upon such an important aspect of shafa'at? So according to the Quranic Sunnah and the verses of the Quranic verses and the Sunnah, disbelief and intercession cannot go together. If you are a disbeliever, if you are kafir, there's no shafa'at. And if there is shafa'at, you are not kafir. You understand this whole scenario, and this view is coinciding with various Ahle Tasannum. All the scholars of Tasannum say that it is not that. Iman of Abu Talib is mukammil. And then it is said that when the Prophet said that, can you say that Iman of Abu Talib was, this question was brought out by the Nasibis. You know, the Nasibis are the enemies who circulated myths over the years about Rasulullah. And one of the myths is that he did not recite the Shahadatain and Nabuwat. Therefore, he has died on apostasy and therefore he's kafir. Now, the reply is that Abu Talib's unwavering faith is a topic that has gone over centuries and centuries. And now they say that if Abu Talib did not recite, was it necessary for him to recite? That's a question. Because as the beginning of the majlis, and we talked about Surah Mujadila, when we talk about those people who take on the disbelievers, even if they are their brothers and fathers and sons and relatives or rishtadar, we heard that, and we found Abu Talib going against his own cousins because they were harassing the Prophet. Then we came to the Quranic conjunction that when Abu Talib alayhi salam, it's about those people who are in disbelievers, they do not get intercession. Then we came to the Hadith Noor, which talks about the purity and the tahara of every ancestor, every step that can, it's like a silsila which can never be broken. So after all of that, then you see that, the verbal testimony is important if we need to become Muslim. Aap samjhe? And it is necessary for a person who was previously not Muslim and he has to convert to Islam, he has to revert. So the proof of his faith is his verbal testimony. Just like right now in the dunya, we see hundreds of people flocking to Islam and reverting to the Sharia. And what do we find? That they take the Shahada. So this is necessary for someone who is in another faith, who comes to the faith of Islam. So now, for instance, Tariq says, history shows us that who were the people or the personalities around the Prophet who had to do this verbal testimony. So let us come and see. And this is not me. Meri kya majalis member se baith kar apni janib se kuch bhi keh do. This is not about me. It is about Ahle Tasannum. And from the books of the books of the Ahle Sunnah, it is said that the personalities that had to verbally testify were Abu Bakr, Umar ibn Khattab, Uthman ibn Affan, Muawiyah, his father Abu Sufyan, and so on. So these vast majority and these personalities had to utter the Shahadatain because they were on the faith of the idols. Abu Talib ke liye ye zarurat na thi, because the verbal testimony was necessary for them to affirm their faith. And many just became Muslim, like Abu Sufyan, and they became after the conquest of Mecca. And there were some people, it is said that Abu Talib's creed was known. He was on the Deen Hanif. He was on the Deen. When they come in the sulb of the prophets from the Deen Hanif, they came to the Deen of Islam. So there was no need for Abu Talib to even utter the Shahadat. And then it is said that when Abu Talib alayhi salam, it is said the proof was that we did not see any paganism in Abu Talib. And like Fatima bint Asad, it is said that when Abu Sufyan, and it is said when Abu Sufyan started to agree, and he started to say the Shahadatain, it is said that the moment he said the Shahadatain, and on the very next time, it is said Abu Sufyan and Muawiyah, etc., they started the Battle of Hunain. So how does their Shahada still make them Muslim if they go against the Hujjat of Allah? So you understand, it is said that when the Holy Quran says that Allah disregards the signs, the apparent signs of verbal testimony in favor of more tangible signs which people need to show. If you understand, I know that this is becoming like a discussion which is, aapko aapke zehnon ko lagana hai, lekin Allah keh raha hai. What does Allah say? There was a verbal testimony which was required for those people who were not in the faith. Now the verbal testimony, after giving the verbal testimony, they still did what they wanted. They still denied the Prophet. They still went against the Prophet. They denied the Quran. They lifted their swords. What does Allah say? Now we refer to Surah Baqarah, verse 8. What does Allah say? There are some people who say we believe in Allah and the last day, but remember, Prophet, they are not believers. Quran. The next ayat of Surah Baqarah itself, ayat number 14. When they meet each other, they say we believe. What? When they meet each other, they say we believe. Yani amanna. But when they are alone, they tell shaitan, we are with you. तो उनका बोला हुआ कोई वजन नहीं रखता. The word that they said, the kalima la ilaha illallah, was just upon their lips as lip service. It did not change them, nor did it penetrate their heart. It remained on their lips. And when they were alone, they went back to shaitan. Why else would the felicitation at Ghadir, the acceptance of Imam Ali at Ghadir, be there on the face value? And when the Prophet passed from this dunya, they went back to shaitan. So you understand what Allah is trying to say, that by saying something, you do not become what you are supposed to become. Your action has to speak more. And then Allah talks about the last giroh, the last group of people, when the hypocrites come. Surah Munafiqun, verse number 1. When the hypocrites come to you and they say, we bear witness that you are Allah's apostle. Allah knows surely, and you surely even you know, Muhammad, that these are liars. So when the munafiqeen came to the Prophet and said, we believe in you and we believe in Allah and the last day, Allah says, no, Muhammad, do not rely upon them. They are liars. Yani, bolne ke baad bhi, Allah talks about their testimony, which Allah says it was not the one which they gave with their hearts. So who were others faithful to test the testimony? Yes, of course, there were many who were faithful to the testimony. In fact, it is said that every action, if this testimony their faith was soiled with actions that they disobeyed the Prophet, they raised their voice in his presence, they abandoned the Prophet, they ran away, they left him alone, they tried to, in fact, it is said, in the battle of Uhud and Hunain, they attempted to assassinate the Prophet. So every action that they did was sufficient for them to be pushed out of the realm of Islam, called irtad, यानी मुर्तद हो जाएं, जबान से कुछ कहे लेकिन रसूल अल्लाह पर जुल्म और अजियत ढाएं, they become murtad. The legality of irtad would come upon them. And then it is said, in spite of that, they never showed any remorse. And Surah Hujurat, then Allah talks about it and says, oh Muhammad, tell them, do you think they obliged you by becoming Muslim? In fact, Abu Sufyan and Muawiyah, after doing the verbal shahada in 8 Hijrah, 8 after Hijrah, they accepted Islam and they went straight away against the Prophet in the battle of Uhud, in the battle of Hunain, sorry. And Marwan ibn Hakam was exiled when his father was, even they were both exiled to outside Medina. Yet he went to rule upon the Muslims, and the red carpet was rolled out for him by none other than Uthman ibn Affan. May Allah's mercy be taken away from all of them. And he made a mockery of the verbal system. And then it is said, Imam Ali. So no wonder when Amir al-Mu'mineen was not interested in the allegiance of a person like Marwan. And he said that though he has talked about Shahada, he has spoken the Shahada, verbally testified, his action is worse like a Jew in Jang-e Jamal. He said that he is a traitor and he is worse than a Jew, that he would deceive him after paying allegiance 20 times. He would come back to his original. And this is what Hazrat Imam Ali says about Abu Talib, about Marwan. And he says that on the other hand, my father, it is said that once, oh, your father Ali is in the hell. So ab Maula Ali, चेहरे पे शिकन आ जाती है, कैसे जा सकता है मेरा बाबा जहन्नम में जब उसका बेटा कासिम जहन्नम में जन्नत है. मैं बांटने वाला हूँ, मैं बांट रहा हूँ जन्नत और जहन्नम. And it is said that in the Holy Quran we talk about so many parts where Allah talks about the love, and he said that, oh, he found you as a yatim, he found you as a yatim, and he raised you, he kept you, he saved you so many times. अपने बेटे को sacrifice किया, अपने बेटे को कुर्बान करके कितनी मर्तबा हजरत अबू तालिब ने मेरे मौला रसूल अल्लाह की जान बचाई. क्या कहने, वो दिन आ गया कि जहां पर रसूल अल्लाह के हुज़्न का कोई करार नहीं था. शोबे अबू तालिब में 3 साल गुजारने के बाद मेरे मौला रसूल अल्लाह जब आए हैं शहर में, तो क्या होता है कि अबू तालिब अलैहिस्सलाम अलील हो जाते हैं, और अलील होकर मेरे मौला ने देखा कि मेरे बाबा अबू तालिब इस कदर तड़प रहे हैं. हाय क्या हुआ, मेरे मौला की रूह निकलने लगी, अबू तालिब अलैहिस्सलाम की रूह निकलने लगी. रसूल सराने आ गए, अली शोरो शैन करके रोने लगे. अबू तालिब अलैहिस्सलाम को किबला रूह किया. रसूल खुदा ने इतना मातम किया. कहते हैं कि जब रसूल खुदा ने हजरत अबू तालिब को हिचकियां भरते देखा, रसूल ने कहा, हाय मैं आज यतीम हो गया. अबू तालिब का दुनिया से जाना, उसी साल में खदीजा का बिछड़ना, रसूल से ये गम बर्दाश्त न हुआ, आमुल हुज़्न करार दिया. ये साल वो है कि जो रसूल पर मुसीबत का साल गुजरा. आए रोने वालों, मैं हाथों को जोड़ू रसूल अल्लाह, आपका बाबा समान, आपका बाबा अबू तालिब दुनिया से गया. बड़े खुशकिस्मत हो आप मौला, आपने अबू तालिब की कफन की गठाने बांधी, आप ही ने गुस्ल कफन दिया, अली से कह के कब्र खुदवाई. अरे बड़े शान से जनाजा उठा. अबू तालिब के जनाजे में 2-2 हुज्जतें साथ चलती है. आगे आगे रसूल, अबा को उल्टा कर, अमामे को उतार कर, आस्तीनों को उलट कर, अबू तालिब की शहादत पर रसूल खुदा ने यतीमी का इजहार किया. मैं कहूँ मौला, ए अबू तालिब, बड़े खुशकिस्मत हो आप. हर बाप चाहता है वो बेटे के कांधों पर जाए. हाय करबला का यतीम, अरे हाथों में हथकड़ियां है, पैरों में बेड़ियां है. अरे बाप का लाशा करबल के बन में तड़पता है, और गर्दो गुबार साया बनती है. 3 दिन तक लाश उड़िया रही. सज्जाद बेहाल. जब 11 मुहर्रम, अरे जब शिवर ने लश्कर तैयार किया, आवाज आई, उमर साद ने कहा, ऊंटों की कतारों को वहां से ले जाओ जहां गंजे शहीदा है. ए अबू तालिब, आपको गुस्लो कफन मिला, आपको मट्टी मयस्सर हुई. हाय आकर देखे, अरे सज्जाद पैरों में जंजीरें हैं, اس قدر عمامہ جلا ہوا، بدن کو رسیوں سے باندھ کر اونٹ کی پشت پہ بٹھایا گیا ہے، اونٹ کی قطار وہاں سے گزری جہاں حسین غریب کا لاشا، بیٹا ہاتھوں میں زنجیریں، پشت کے پیچھے بندھی ہوئی، آنکھوں سے اشکوں کی روانی۔ سجاد نے باپ کے لاشے کو دیکھا، بابا مجبور ہوں بابا، 2 گز کفن نہیں دے سکتا، ماں بہنیں ننگے سر گئے، حسین کا لاشا کربلا پہ تڑپا۔ الا ولعنت اللہ علی القوم الظالمین، سیعلم الذین ظلموا ای منقلب ینقلبون، انا للہ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ، رضاً بِقَضَائِهِ وَتَسْلِيمًا لِأَمْرِهِ۔ Parvardigar, accept from us this Qaleel Ibadat in the name of Hazrat Abu Talib. O Imam Zaman, we pay you condolences on this shahadat, on this sad day and this sad occasion of the death of Hazrat Abu Talib alayhi salam. O Allah, for the sake of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, grant us shafa from this marz, from this virus that has encompassed the whole world. O Allah, for the sake of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, increase our iman, our wilayat and our aqidah upon Abu Talib and his children. Ya Rabbi Fatima, ishfa sadra Fatima bizukur al-hujjat. Ya Rabbi al-Husayn, ishfa sadra al-Husayn bizukur al-hujjat. Ya Rabbi al-Mu'mineen wal-Mu'minat, ishfa sudur al-Mu'mineen wal-Mu'minat bizukur al-hujjat. Allahumma ajil waliyak al-faraj. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum wa la'ana aduwahum من الأولين والآخرين اليوم إلى يوم الدين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرج ماتم حسين.
ایک سورہ فاتحہ کی گزارش۔ اعوذ باللہ من الشیطان الرجیم، بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم، الحمد للہ رب العالمین الرحمن الرحیم مالک یوم الدین، ایاک نعبد و ایاک نستعین، اہدنا الصراط المستقیم، صراط الذین انعمت علیہم غیر المغضوب علیہم ولا الضالین۔ بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم، قل هو اللہ احد اللہ الصمد، لم یلد ولم یولد ولم یکن له کفوا احد۔ ان اللہ وملائکتہ یصلون علی النبی، یا ایہا الذین آمنوا صلوا علیہ وسلموا تسلیما۔ اللہم صل علی محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجہم۔ پروردگارہ، ہم تیری بارگاہ میں التماس کرتے ہیں پنجتن پاک کے صدقے، چہاردہ معصومین، تمام شہدائے کربلا کے صدقے اور وسیلے سے اس سورہ فاتحہ کا نذرانہ، مجلس، مرثیہ، نوحہ خوانی، زیارت اور جو بھی عبادت انجام دیے گئے ہیں، اس کو تو اپنے بارگاہ میں قبول اور مقبول فرمانا، اس کے عوض میں ہمارے گناہان کبیرہ اور صغیرہ کو معاف فرمانا، اور تمام مرحومین بالخصوص بانی مجلس، حاضرین مجلس کے مرحومین کے درجات میں اضافہ فرما، اور ان کو جوار معصومین کی قربت سے مشرف فرما۔ وصلی اللہ علی محمد وآلہ الطاہرین۔